Santa's so fast, he delivers presents to the whole wide world in one night.
Superman is faster. He circled the planet, made us all forget about that earthquake that killed Lois Lane.
What earthquake?
Exactly, bitch.
Kids, take it easy.
Superman!
It's not important who's fastest.
Spoken like a true puss.
What did you f***ing say? I would whip Santa's fat ass. Is that what you want to hear, you little f***ing turd? You come at me like a f***ing man.
Got to blog about the that just went down right here.
Old Soups thinks he's the fastest, eh? Ho, ho, ho!
So, who is the fastest, Santa?
Ho, 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 that's not important.
Spoken like a true puss.
We doing this, blue balls?
You got that right, Saint Dick. Hey, no fair using reindeer.
Oh, okay, no fair using our yellow sun then, you f***ing alien.
I am from beyond. Listen, and all you desire will be yours. Welcome to Spider-Dan and the Secret Balls. Prepare for Prattle.
Nativity Stories. Welcome to Prattle World. I am your host, the ever-amazing, ever-spectacular Spider-Dan, and in this podcast, I spotlight entertainment's best-kept secrets that a mainstream audience may find boring. And welcome to Alternativity Stories, a month-long look at alternative stories set around the most wonderful time of the year. I am back once again for the second part of Alternativity Stories of 2021. It has been a long year, certainly much like last year, but I'm on my own this time, just looking at a compilation of DC Comics stories that are set around the holiday period. So this book is called Christmas with the Superheroes, issue 1. So they released 2, I believe, around the same time of year. And the first one was stories that had previously been published in different comics that they compiled into this one issue. And then the second issue was more original stories about New Year, Hanukkah, Christmas, you name it. So I'm going to look just at issue 1 this year because there's a lot to cover. But maybe next year I might look at the sequel if you'd like to hear about that. Let me know if you'd like me to cover something else. There's a couple of other comics I've been looking at or I've read recently. The Last Christmas was especially good, right up my street. So yeah, maybe something like that or something different. Who knows? But we're here to talk the comics. So this is from 1988, the year of my birth. So I am getting on a bit, to say the least. But I'm just going to list out the stories before we go into any details or any spoilers about the stories. A lot of them are relatively short, so I can't really not talk about them without going into spoilers. This comic is currently available on Comixology if you want to read it ahead of time. It is there, it's available. I believe you could probably get it fairly cheap on eBay or Amazon if you look around for it. But it's called Christmas with the Superheroes, 1988. Issue 1, and you should be able to find everything. But these issues, some of the stuff that happens in them is fairly important, but there's a lot of stuff that hasn't really aged that well. Some of the, the more kind of traditional, there's a kind of Superboy and Superman specifically are like, well, this is Christmas, I'm going to celebrate Christmas my way, and every other culture isn't really included. And yeah, so there's some stuff that might be a little bit offensive to some people, but again, it's down to you what you think of it. If you can read through it like I have, and you can appreciate some things that are like, because these stories are all quite old, even at the time of these reprints. This was quite a lot of these stories have been out for a few years, so probably not kind of in the modern milieu of what we would consider kind of acceptable. But we're going to have a look at them anyway. But we've got some really historic things happening in these issues as well, which I'm going to go into. And it does have a lot of good talent behind each of the issues, and they're not all bad. I wouldn't say they're necessarily bad, but it's just sections of them are not as great, or using the 2021 lens, there's things that have not aged that well. But the first story is Batman, and that's Wanted, Santa Claus, Dead or Alive, and that was from DC Special Series 21, and that came out in 1979. We've got Justice League in The Man Who Murdered Santa Claus from Justice League 110 from March and April of 1974. We've got the Teen Titans in the TT Swinging Christmas Carol from Teen Titans 13 from January-February of 1968. Legion of Superheroes in the Starlight, Starbright story from DC Special Series 21 from 1979. And Superman in Twas the Fright Before Christmas from DC Comics Presents 67 from March of 1984. And finally, Batman in The Silent Night of the Batman from Batman 219. So there's a lot of cool comic book talent, like I've said. We've got people like Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams, Frank Miller, Len Wein. You can go on and on and on. There's so much kind of talent, comic book classic royalty that have written a lot of these stories. And again, like I said, some of them not aged so well, not maybe as sensitive to all the other cultures and beliefs and stuff around the holidays, but they're fine. They're fine. But anyway, let's get to it. So the first story, Wanted, Santa Claus, Dead or Alive, is a very short story, but it's an important story because it is Frank Miller's first ever work on Batman, who would, go on to write Batman Year One and would go on to write The Dark Knight Strikes Again as well. So proper classic Batman tales. I think this is also before he went to work on Daredevil and did his historic run on that character as well. An amazing run. Again, however you feel about Frank Miller, that's your decision, but you can't ignore that he was a talent at a time before, doing his weird stuff later on. Anyway, so yeah, it's written by Denny O'Neil as well, so the whole premise of this story is that Batman is looking for a heist artist called Boomer Katz, who has been recently released from prison, and he's had some dealings with some shady characters over the years, and he's asked for a boat to be kind of rented out the harbour waiting for him. And Batman thinks this is suspect, obviously. So he's trying to find Boomer Katz before, anything goes down. Turns out that Boomer has got a job at a local kind of shopping centre mall as a Santa. And turns out he's one of the best Santas they've ever had. They love him. They're all very nice to him. They're very kind, very caring, loving, give him a lot of attention. And as he comes to rob the place with his gang, he has a change of heart. The Christmas spirit gets inside him, changes him, warms up that cold heart, very Grinch-like heart, and he goes, no, I can't do it. And he starts trying to attack the other thieves, trying to kind of beat them off, trying to save the people working there from being shot. Gets shot himself, runs outside. Batman hears the shots and he kind of comes running in and saves him, but he's trying to find him because one of the criminals takes him hostage. There's a great scene where Batman throws this potted kind of small Christmas tree directly at a criminal's head. It's fantastic. Great kind of dynamic, classic Frank Miller artwork before he got into his kind of modern style. It was kind of a bit more kind of a regular kind of comic book artist styling, not as quite as unique to his form now, but yeah, really, really cool, really nice. The way he finds him as well, you'll notice a lot of these stories have kind of a Christmas miracles occur. That's kind of a running theme through all these stories, that something not quite a little supernatural occurs or something like that. There's a light that shines, there's a star basically, and it shines down, and the light targets where Boomer Katz has been taken hostage, where the other criminal is, and Batman subdues him. And yeah, that's basically the end of the story. And they were like, oh, it's a Christmas miracle. And then Boomer Katz, kind of the guy who works at the shopping centre, his boss, is like, yeah, sure, we'll help out, and I'll be a character witness for you until maybe you'll get off with an easier sentence. And that's basically the story. There's not much to it, but it's nice. It's got some good action. It's drawn really well. Again, I think it's a Denny O'Neil story. I'm pretty sure it is. I can always go back and double check. Check it out yourself. You can do the work. I'm not doing the work, but yeah, it's kind of that's basically it. So it's kind of the Star of Bethlehem, if you will, has helped Batman find the criminal and bring him to justice. But yeah, there is a scene where Batman's trying to find Boomer Cats, and he goes into like kind of a soup kitchen type deal, but he actually like for lack of a better word, blacks up, unfortunately, in his disguise, and you can see him removing the disguise as well, which is hasn't aged very well at all. But there you go. That's was the 70s or maybe 80s, I don't know. It's been a good few years since that story, but there you go. Next one is a Justice League story by Len Wein, and it is an interesting one. The Man Who Murdered Santa Claus. So it opens quite dramatically, this particular story. It opens as basically Batman and Superman are kind of helping out, doing some charity work with this kind of, again, shopping centre Santa, and they turn away for 1 second, they turn back, and the Santa has now exploded. So Santa has been killed in the opening pages, effectively, of this comic, so it really does grab your attention straight away. And it's a really interesting, again, this is quite an historic kind of Justice League issue that just happens to be kind of set at Christmas. Justice League are called to investigate this because there is a note left with a kind of a clues and a poem, and basically there's a huge bomb threat. You know, Superman and Batman don't think they can do it alone or cover as much ground because they don't know where it is, what city it's in, what area it's in. That's just something they can't necessarily figure out on their own. But Batman does manage to kind of locate at least the city and the area that it will be in, and obviously with the help of the Justice League, spoilers, they stop the bomb threat. Well, kind of. Anyway, going back to the story, so all the other current Justice League members at the time are called, so Black Canary, Green Arrow, Red Tornado, I think that's it. So, yeah, I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head, but that particular lineup, maybe Zatanna? I don't know, maybe. Green Lantern is also called, Hal Jordan's Green Lantern, but he, being the doofus that Hal Jordan is, slips in the shower and knocks himself out. So the Green Lantern ring has to go to his replacement, which at this time is John Stewart's Green Lantern, and John Stewart's Green Lantern just has a ring on, and he just pulls him towards the meeting. And again, this bit hasn't aged so well because all of the Justice League are really kind of intimidating towards John Stewart. They're like, we don't trust you, pal. We don't know you from Adam, And it just, it doesn't come across very well because since they're all white people, I'm like, this is a little uncomfortable how aggressive they're being. And, and Green Arrow wants to celebrate Christmas, but he feels like he's been dragged in for a wild goose chase. And Red Tornado doesn't actually get the concept of Christmas, so they have to kind of explain the idea to him and get his head around it because he's recently joined the team from being a villain, I believe. So it's kind of these early days for a lot of these characters. John Stewart hasn't been a Green Lantern very often or very recently. I think in the Len Wein run of Green Lantern, he does become the Green Lantern for a decent amount of time, like for a long run. I think he gets rid of the mask at that point as well. But yeah, so they go off, they're looking for this bomb. It turns out the person behind the bomb threat leaves a key and a note. And surprise, surprise, the villain, of course, is the Key. You probably might not necessarily have heard of him. He's in the Grant Morrison run of the Justice League. They kind of give him a revamp and make him a bit more sinister and creepy and scary. But initially, he's a guy he's very into locks and keys and doors and stuff. That's kind of his thing. But he's taken lots of drugs and stuff, and they have caused his brain to grow and his intelligence to grow and his physiology to be stronger, better, faster, that sort of thing, and it's causing him now to die. So he wants to kill. He says he won't make it through Christmas, basically. So his plan is to kill the Justice League, and he is successful, basically. Again, spoilers to this story, but they come across several traps when they manage to locate the bomb threat. There's a really sad moment as well where Green Lantern is approached by by some poor black children, and they're like, come on, you're black, you can help us out, we're poor, give us some money or something. And he's like, I don't have any money, or I can't help. Green Arrow's like, I'm really sorry, but there's nothing we can do at this moment. We've got to stop the bomb threat. It's in Seattle. They discover through the clues left that it was in Seattle, and they go to the arch, or that big kind of thing, not the Sky Needle or whatever. I think it's Seattle with that big kind of arch. Who knows? I'm sure my American friends will tell me. They go in, there's a very sad thing, and they've got to leave those kids to be cold and starve. So it doesn't look very heroic at the time. But, what else can they do, I guess. But they go in, and there's a threat. There's several traps that have been laid out specifically for certain kind of Justice League members, and they all get eliminated one by one, leaving it down to, I believe it's Red Tornado and Green Lantern. But then, surprise, surprise, it's revealed that the Phantom Stranger was working with the Key to protect the Justice League and has miraculously saved them from harm. However, the Key manages to set off the bombs. Basically, he escapes. The Phantom Stranger disappears, and the Justice League are left to stop this bomb going off, but they realise that they actually can't stop it from going off. So what they do is they evacuate the area, and Green Lantern contains the explosion within his ring, like a big sphere. And what he then does is proper slap in the face to like Hal Jordan, who famously he rebuilt Coast City and lost his mind after it was destroyed. And the Guardians of the Universe, who are in charge of the Green Lanterns, are like, that's not cool, mate. You can't do that. That's not on. That's not cricket. And so what Jon Stewart does is he finds a little bit of a loophole. So he uses the rubble and remakes all the buildings and gives those poor kids, a place to live that we saw earlier. But yeah, if Al Jordan read this story, he'd be very annoyed. He's like, what the fuck, man? But I guess with Coast City, it was absolutely just atomized, wasn't it? So there was nothing left to use to rebuild. But yeah, these bombs that set off left a lot of rubble that you could reconstitute while not breaking the rules. So that's the story. But again, it's the first time they've met Jon Stewart, so this is an important issue, and it's a fun issue. It's not like, it's very classic old school, like, there's a villain, there's an area, there's traps. It's not going to change your world, but it's a fun little story. It's fine. And at the end, Black Canary gives Red Tornado his classic costume. So he's more kind of human looking, he's more attractive, because before he's in this really clunky, horrible purple and red thing, which just doesn't look very good. So he gets the classic, as a Christmas present, he gets his classic uniform that he's kind of most well known for, that kind of design with the blue cape and the red and the yellow and the big T on the chest. That's what he gets for Christmas, which is nice and sweet, and as kind of cynical as Green Arrow is, he's kind of like, he gets a little choked up, I think. But yeah, it's a nice little story. It's Len Wein, so you can't really go wrong with that. But yeah, it was a good little fun tale, that one. We've got much more to go through, so this next one is probably my least favourite. It is the TT's Swinging Christmas Carol. So this is Teen Titans story, but it's before the Marv Wolfman and George Perez era, so when they weren't being written that well. It's a lot of cheesy, like jive, hip kind of talk. It's not great. It's basically about Timmy and his dad, who work for a man called Mr. Scrouge. As you might guess, it is a Christmas Carol kind of modern take on it. So Mr. Scrouge runs a junk, like a junkyard type thing. I think it's Mr. Hatchet, I think, whatever the dad's name. And Timmy is in a wheelchair, and he's hoping to get home and to afford to buy him a new wheelchair because the one he's got is not great. And he's like, no, it's basically just Mr. Scrooge and that whole thing. And he's being paid for people to come and take junk from, or use his junkyard as an operating area for the importing of more junk. And they have a ray gun that transforms that junk into Like, it just remakes everything. It fixes everything, like at the touch of a button. And they basically sell that at a higher price, and they import the junk. It's very complicated. I don't even think it makes that much sense, to be honest, which probably is why I don't like it so much. But the import, it paid less duty on it. I don't know. It seems like a weird scam. If you had that technology, I would just go legit. Like, if you have a beam, a laser beam, ray gun that fixes everything, just hire it out. Just get someone to come in and just be like, yeah, $50 to fix your bike, $50 to fix your iPad, or whatever it is. Obviously, this is in the 1960s. But basically, Timmy discovers this, or Tommy discovers this, and Tiny Timmy or Tiny Tommy tells his dad. His dad confronts him. He's like, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. And then at his door, his former partner, I think it's like Morley, which is obviously like Jacob Marley, turns up and scares him. He's like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. The Teen Titans come, they get involved. And then they decide to show Mr. Scrouge the error of his ways by dressing up like ghosts and using their powers to seem, otherworldly when they know it's not them. But eventually the gang catches up with all of them. And, Wonder Girl is written so poorly as well in this. Poor Donna Troy, because she's constantly falling over, hurting herself, fainting. Just awful writing for her. She just becomes the damsel in distress, but it's just so obvious, so awful. It's one of them. It's, eventually he learns the error of his ways, and he misses Scrouge, and he fights back and tries to help defeat the gang with the Teen Titans' help. And then he's gonna change his ways and go to prison. He creates Timmy a new wheelchair. It's all fine. It's fine. It's not a good story. It just really isn't. It's just not great. It's just all very poorly conceived. And I've read a lot of kind of comics that have done a spin on Christmas Carol, and this is by far the worst one I've read. So maybe if you do get this collection, maybe skip this one. But yeah, give it a try. You might like it. You never know. Okay, next up is Starlight, Starbright. So this is a Legion of the Superheroes story. So it's set in the 31st century. And this is the one that's kind of a bit weird as well. So Superboy comes from the past into the future to celebrate Christmas with the Legion of Superheroes. And he gets there and he's like, where's the tree? Where's the decorations? Where's the tinsel? Where's all this? And the Legion explain that obviously they encompass many worlds, many traditions, many cultures, and that everybody celebrates in their own way. They celebrate however you want to celebrate. There's even Colossal Boy, who is, as we spoke about last year, he's a Jewish superhero, and he celebrates Hanukkah and all these other different worlds. Either they might not have a holiday at this time of year, or they do something else, or it's something different. I think the Shadow Lass doing something and some other stuff going on. And Superboy is super judgy about this, and he goes, well, I want a tree, I want a tinsel, I want a star, I want everything, I want a classic Christmas, and everyone's like, what? And he's like, no, this is wrong. It's almost like he's complaining about the war on Christmas, which I was like, okay, right, sure, okay. And he says, hey, I know what we'll do. We will find the Star of Bethlehem. And they're all a bit like, what? Yeah, we're going to go find where that was. So, and fair play to the Legion. They go along with this and go, fine. We'll take whatever historical records and star charts and we'll find the Star of Bethlehem. Totally bizarre story. Totally, utterly bizarre. And Superboy's even a bit judgy of Saturn Girl because she's working and Cosmic Boy's looking after their kids. And he's like, well, to each their own, but whatever. And I was like, that's a bit judgy that, yeah, she's working because she's guarding the galaxy, or the Legion of Planets, or whatever they call it, United Planets, and he's proper super judgy in this. I didn't really like it, and he just sends them all on a wild goose chase, and they're like, well, it's over here somewhere. So Lightning Lad, Wildfire, Phantom Girl, all the other ones, they all go off and they find a planet instead, and this planet has several different races on it. There's an aquatic race, there's like a humanoid hairy race, there's like a race of bird creatures. and they're all undergoing these planetary disasters, these natural disasters, and they're trying to help these cultures, but they're basically doomed to extinction. And then Superboy realizes that actually they can work together, and then they can save each other and help each other out, and they won't need to die because they can't get any evacuation ships or anything. This is too far out. So they managed to kind of work that out, which is nice. And it's the piece working together and all that. And then at the end, they were like, yeah, I think Wildfire's like, the nav computer's wrong. This has just been a wild goose chase. You brought us in. He was like, no, it's Christmas miracle that we were brought here. No, it was just you, Superboy, being a dick. And it's like, where's my tree? Where's my tinsel? Where's my baubles? No, you're being a dick, mate. So they get there, done it, and they go back, and then Superboy gets his tree, gets his tinsel, and he's like, yeah, it was a Christmas miracle. And Wildfire's like, nah, you're talking rubbish, mate. And I'm kind of on Wildfire's side because he's just literally made them leave for no reason. They could have had a nice kind of Christmas anyway, but again, they did save a planet and saved a race, so it was a good thing in the end. But it was all based on Superboy being an arsehole, basically. So thanks, Superboy. So next up, don't worry, Superman's going to get super judgy as well in this. This is Twas the Fright Before Christmas, and it basically features Superman teaming up with Santa. So Superman discovers a child attempting to hold up a charity Santa and discovers a toy gun and a toy spaceship that's hypnotized the boy, and he decides to just scoop him up and kidnap him and take him to the Fortress of Solitude to cure him of this hypnotism, because he's basically trying to shoot Santa in the face. And he determines what the child had been instructed to do by this hypnotic message that was coming off the gun and the ship. And it was the Toy Man, one of Superman's lesser-known villains. And he basically is hypnotizing kids with these toys to steal and to rob people, basically, and to bring back to his toy shop, basically. So he realizes this, and he goes, right, wraps the kid up in his cape again, flies out, locks his front door with that giant metal key that nobody else can pick up but him, and then he flies out, and then the ship itself, the little toy ship, shoots him in the face, and it's like a gravity beam, and they just fall out of the sky into the cold and the snow of the North Pole. But who is to save them but the elves and Santa? And Superman is like, what? I've been here for so long, I've never noticed you. And like Santa's like, well, I don't let anybody just see me, young man. I only let the people I want to see me. He's like, right, okay. And then it just becomes a dick measuring competition between Superman and Santa. So Superman's like, oh, how can your sleigh carry all this weight, all this mass? Even I can't carry this much. And he's like, well, I'm Santa. Okay, but how can you move at such speed? Even I can't move it. Well, I'm Santa. It's just constant like dick measuring. But I'm sure I'm better than you at this. No, I'm Santa. How can you catch me? I didn't feel, when I fell and landed in the sleigh, it didn't break. I didn't go right through your sleigh. Well, I'm Santa. So Santa's, this night of the year, he's like super powerful. He's like omnipotent, this omnipotent character. And Superman just feels a little bit at odds. And he's trying to shake off the effects of this gravity beam as well. And he's just having a weird time of it. But yeah, it's a very odd issue. But Santa goes along with him, helps him, and is his backup in his battle with the Toy Man. And basically, as he's still not at full strength, so he's struggling with the Toy Man's toys that he's fighting. So Santa sends out some toys of his own, and that's basically the story. And eventually, he obviously good conquers evil again, and it's very odd because Santa's staying in the background. He's not showing himself because he's like, oh well, I'm got to be secretive. And I was like, you could stand, if you can allow anyone to see you, you can allow the Toy Man not to see you. And he's got this like, it's very much like Arthur Christmas. He's got this highly technical sci-fi like Santa's grotto, whatever you want to call it, in the North Pole. And yeah, bizarre, but it's a fun little comic. But also, like, Superman again is super judgy because because Santa's going on and saying the kids aren't into the same sort of stories and the same sort of things anymore. Same sort of stories, same sort of toys, like old school toys and stuff. They're into more computer things and, different, this is the 80s, so it's a different type of an entertainment. And Superman's like, yeah, they should be into really old school toys like bears and wooden soldiers and jigsaws and all this other stuff. And then he regales us with a story about how when he was a baby on Krypton, he had a holographic toy, and he was like, yeah, those kids don't know what they're missing with all this stuff. So I'm like, you can't criticize the old school, the new more electronic, more kind of updated toys and what kids want, and then go back and say, oh, well, I had a really, highly advanced electronic sci-fi device, which I really love. Like, it would have made more sense if he went back to his kind of ma and pa in Kansas and Smallville and was like, yeah, I like these old school toys. No, and how can he remember stuff when he was that young as well? I guess he's Superman. I'm sure he's Kryptonian. He's got Kryptonian memory or something. But I was just like, yeah, it's a bit preachy, that, I felt. Like, oh, things aren't like my day, Oh, things have changed. I don't like that. I don't like the super judgy Superman in these issues that I've read. I'm just not a fan. At the end of the story, Superman just wakes up in the snow where he crashed initially, where Santa and the elves saved him. And it's like it's never happened. So he flies the kid back, drops him off, but he doesn't check whether, the toy man needs arresting or anything else happened. He just goes, well, I'm just going to go home now. And then he finds the holographic toy in his cape, and when he puts it on, it shows Santa, and Santa saying Merry Christmas. So it's kind of implied that it was like a dream, but it's not a dream, but it is. But he's forgotten it, but he's not. It's a very confusing end, to be honest. It's not really clear whether he met Santa or not. It's a bit all over the show. The toy man could still be, hypnotizing children for all we know, but yeah, or maybe Santa dumped him back in the snow because the kid doesn't seem to seem to be like, oh yeah, we met Santa and this and that. He just seems to it never happened. So I don't know if it's a time warp or messing with a memory, or Santa's very powerful either way if you can alter reality like that, if that's the case. Toyman is very annoying in this because he's like, yeah, don't you know, don't you see, don't you, all the way through it. And I was just like, oh, just shut up, mate, just shut up. Every other line was like, don't you, and he's not speaking to anybody, he's just speaking. It's like, don't you know, don't you see. That's all he ever says. It's like his catchphrase. Yeah, it didn't really catch on with me, that, funnily enough. Coming to the end now, we've almost there. So this last one is really, really short. It is basically, I think it's only about 7 or 8 pages, like the first Batman story at the start. But it is Neil Adams' art. Don't think it's by Denny O'Neil. I think it's by somebody else. I can't think of their name off the top of my head. All of these issues are comic book royalty. You can check them all out on the back page. I think it lists all the names. The names are listed within the stories. I should have probably looked them up myself. But if anybody wants to know, you can download the issue, or I can put them up later. Yeah. So crime never takes a holiday in Gotham. So neither does the Batman. But after he arrives at the GCPD, Commissioner Gordon goes, oh, come on, sing some carols with us, have a bit of fun. We've not had any calls yet, so, he's like, well, all right. And basically the issue is Batman singing carols. Now, during this, he gets kind of carried away and sings all night, basically, sings for hours. And during this time, we keep catching kind of glimpses of crime that's about to happen, or people that need saving and things like that. And it's almost as if the spirit of Batman is putting them off. So they accidentally see Batman, or they go, oh, that's the shadow of Batman, or someone's dressed as Batman. They're like, oh God, I don't want to be doing that because Batman will come and get me. So no crime actually happens this night. So it's like a little Christmas miracle. And when Batman realizes, there's a lady who's going to kill herself because she believes her soldier husband has died, and as people are going to rob a place or stick somebody up, they change their mind because they've seen an image of Batman or reminded of Batman in some way, and he realizes this. But as Batman realizes this, Commissioner Gordon turns into a ghost. Yeah, okay, but then he's like, oh, I'm seeing things, and then he turns around and he's still there, and he's like, oh, we never got a call this evening. We didn't get one call about people in trouble, and Commissioner Gordon says your investment in this city and the time you've put in has really paid off because, it's goodwill to all men and peace on earth is really been pushed into the mines. Maybe they're just scared of it being put in the hospital and all those hospital bills that Batman is going to cause. Probably. That would be my worry. But yeah, he kind of flies off, swings off and kind of thinks, yeah, maybe the spirit of Batman has done some good after all. And that is it. That is the story. So yeah, that is Christmas with the Superheroes. Thank you for sticking with me on this one, just you and me. It's been great. I've really enjoyed reading these stories. Not all amazing, not all bad, but with any compilation, it's always going to be with any anthology, it's going to be a mix of what you like and what you don't like. But there's some fun in there, there's some fun to be had in these stories. But I might do, like I said, I might do the second issue of Christmas with the Superheroes next year, possibly, or something else. If anybody wants to suggest a Christmas-themed comic, go ahead, because I would like to read more, as I always do. There's a lot of holiday specials and stuff you can get out there, physical or digital in some cases, but yeah, there's loads of stuff. They're quite hard to find, but I've done the research. I've got a decent list of a few, so we can go through that. But yeah, thank you very much for your time again. To find me on the social medias, go to Facebook at Secret Boars, and Twitter is at Dan_Boars, Instagram at SpiderDan and the Secret Boars, and don't forget to use the hashtag #PrepareForPrattle for everything else you need to know about the podcast. Swing over to SpiderDanandthesecretboars.com on the World Wide Web. I'd like to thank my patrons on Patreon. I am Jack's Musings, Paul Mellor, Max Byrne, Tony Farina, Scott Hodgson, Simon Cottam for their continuing donations. It is very much appreciated and helps Prattle World keep on turning. And if you ever find yourself in a position to help the podcast, please consider it. Remember to share, subscribe, all those good things, favourite, whatever the social media term is, go and do it. All right, take care. Thanks again. Bye.